So we'll maybe move on to the next question here. And maybe this applies, and I guess you can all sort of comment on this. Maybe I'll start with you, Jennifer, first on this one. And then we'll go through each of you to kind of get your feedback, both from your own personal experience and just in general. But what do you think holds you back from taking the exams faster?
I would say time and money are both factors when you're creating your schedule. I think personally why I didn't want to take more exams back to back to back, I didn't want to put the pressure on myself personally to perform to that level. And I still had IDP credits to earn, so that was going to take, X amount of months through, while I was taking exams, since, you need to finish your IDP to get your license and finish your exams. So I knew there wasn't as much pressure to finish them like in rapid succession. And I personally just didn't want that pressure on myself. So, and yeah, I think that's one thing that prevents from taking them faster. And of course, like money, they're expensive tests. And if you don't have the money for it, or you have to put out $250 for the exam and materials. It's a big financial investment, and coming out of school, it's hard to put that money up sometimes, especially if you're living in a big city or whatever your personal situation is. So, yeah. Okay,
Josh.
Yeah, so I, again, kind of had the same thing as Jennifer. I was finishing up my IDP, so in the initial ones, it's just spacing it out to go along with IDP as well without really a need to go super fast and condense down the schedule until it got to the ones earlier this year when I had finished my IDP. And so that was one of the reasons why I decided, all right, I just need to do one a month until I get done. And another part of it is I actually took a bit of a break. I mentioned previously I had failed one of the exams. I took a bit of a break after that one. And some things that come up personal-wise that ended up kind of having me do even larger of a break than I had anticipated. Mm-hmm. So that's why I ended up switching to just doing one a month until I was finished.
Sure. Mike, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just I think it's one of those things that a couple of things that have come out of what you guys have said so far on this is that if the IDP is going to take a certain amount of time, there's not really a huge rush to get things done before that happens. And so kind of using that as part of the guideline for your thinking about it and when you're putting these things together seems to be one of the things that you're suggesting, which kind of makes sense to me because the exam was actually written essentially for somebody who's been in the field for at least a year or two. It's meant that you have some experience. And so, building up that experience, building up your IDP, and then using that IDP timing as sort of, well, might as well get it done by then, seems like a really rational approach to me.
And maybe that's a good transition to Charlie, who, obviously Charlie, you took it about as fast as you could probably take it. And interestingly, of course, you took it with, close to 0 of your hours for IDP. So you didn't have that experience, yet you were successful. Can you talk about, taking it at that pace? And, do you advocate for that pace now that you've done it or not?
I think there are a lot of pros to it. I often say that there were some serious advantages to the way it used to work back before the tests were split up that have kind of gone away that we've kind of forgotten about. Back in the day when it was I'm often reminded by my elder peers who heard about what I did that they used to take the exam in 4 days straight, so 7 days is not impressive.
Like a real architect, I might point out.
Exactly.
Sorry, I have to say, it's by constitutional law, I have to say that when.
I completely understand. I think back when it was only offered once once or twice a year, there was a certain sense of camaraderie built into it that doesn't exist anymore. I think preparing for it now, however you plan it, if you're not proactive about kind of finding a support group, whether that's other people that are studying for it or just people in your firm or family, it can be a very lonely road if you let it. And so I think there, in that sense, there's a certain epic and gratifying quality to just sort of busting through them all at once and doing it the way they used to do in the old days, back when they were carving on stone tablets like Mike did. I don't necessarily advocate it. It is very expensive. It requires a significant amount of commitment and dedication to kind of put in the time to study for it all at once. Because of the situation I was in, my wife was 1,000 miles away back in Michigan while I was in D.C., so I really had no problem kind of giving up what little social life I had out there. I was, studying, like I said, I had an hour and a half commute each way, so I studied on the way into work, on the way back from work, and then 3 or 4 hours a night, pretty much solid for those 7 weeks. So it was a grueling and brutal lead-up process, but it paid off. And again, kind of coming back to the IDP question, I knew that without having any formal experience, I had to compensate by studying all that much more.
Right.
Thankfully, there are a number of resources out there that help, and I'll say plainly, the Black Spectacles video series is a great way of identifying where the gaps are in your current understanding, or kind of checking in with yourself on where you still need work. So especially when you're coming from a situation where you don't have a whole lot of professional experience, identifying those weak points is huge in being able to make a realistic study plan.
That's a really good, interesting point.
I agree.
Sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, no, yeah, I just wanted to say that I agree with what Charlie's saying. And I think it's also something to add that, you have a different mentality from like student life and professional working life. Coming out of school as a student, you're in that, you have that study mentality, putting in those extra hours and, prepping for exams. It's just kind of a natural thing that you're used to doing. But then, we start working, work gets in the way, and it's another priority, and you kind of lose like that, student life, I'd say, that student mentality. So I would, just looking back on it, I, would advocate that people start taking those exams as soon as possible.